Okay, it's 7:02, and I'm going to go ahead and get started this evening. Welcome, everyone, to the Washington Township Parent Council Network September meeting at the very end of September. We are so glad that you are able to be here this evening. We know that most people on Wednesdays at 7 p.m., they are busy being a parent. So we appreciate your time and are grateful that you are here. I'm going to start by sharing what our agenda looks like. We'll start off by talking about just kind of recapping what Parent Council Network is and what our mission is and what we believe in. We'll then get an update from the administration from Dr. Taylor. We'll get a school board update, hopefully, from Mrs. George Davis. I have not seen her log on yet, though, so she may be able to pop on at some point. Then we'll get to the focus, the big focus of this evening, which is a school safety and security update from our newly installed Chief of Washington Township Police, Chief Lindsay. Then we'll hear from Mr. Doss, who will talk about our grade level support teams and how that plays into school safety and security. And at that point, we will open it up for Q&A. I will say that we have several questions already that have come through our online form that we put out. So we'll start with some of those. And then towards the end of the meeting, after we wind down with question and answer session, we will get an update from Taryn Greaser, our treasurer. And then we'll talk about what's coming next meeting. We'll hear from Crystal Pascal, who is our public policy chair and a past president of Parent Council Network. And then we'll end it there. So, and did Officer Lindsay, is he logged on now? Okay, good. Could someone make him a co-host? One of our co-hosts make him a co-host so that he has screen sharing ability? And I just see Mrs. Davis just jumped on too, so that's great. So let's get started. So what is Parent Council Network? A lot of people ask that question. The Washington Township Parent Council Network is an independent, nonpartisan, nonprofit group of parent and caregiver advocates of Washington Township students who represent a diverse community in Indianapolis and believe that quality public education is an investment in the future. Our mission is to represent and give a district-wide voice to the educational interests of families and to strive to enhance the quality of public education in the township. We have 5 core beliefs. The first is that our highest priorities are our children and their education. We value public education and our community public schools. Parents have the right to meaningful participation in the process of public education. Diverse parent leadership, talent, influence, and perspective are all vital to excellent education. And we believe that the community of Washington Township values and supports public schools and public education. In order to support our mission, we have 4 pillars, and they're broken down like this. Inform, we inform and empower parents by providing objective and pertinent information regarding our schools. We collaborate with parents and educators to maintain and highlight the diversity of our schools. We influence the future of public education and our school district by involving our parents in public policy. And we advocate for all Washington Township students by electing school board members that we as parents feel will move our district forward. This is how we're structured. Anyone is allowed, any parent, if you're a parent or caregiver in Washington Township, you are welcome. You are one of us. You are here. We want you here. If you intend to attend more than 5 of our 9 scheduled meetings, you can be a voting member, which means that you participate in voting on the business issues that impact this organization. And the way it is structured is like a council, as it has been for the last, almost 65 years. We have the opportunity to have 10 representatives from each elementary school, 12 from the middle schools, and 24 from the high school, for a total of 130 possible voting members. And I think it's important for us to demonstrate to our community that we care, we advocate, and we're here. So if you notice that you're the only person from your school, maybe see if you can find some more people from your school, or talk to your friends and see if we can get more people here, because it really is important. I think we are going to, I think Scott is going to drop a link in the chat that is the sign up form for that. So that will be what we look at when we get to issues that we vote on. I'll quickly just name our board of directors for this year. Our past president is Crystal Pascal. I am your president this year. Brian Henry will be our president next year. He's our president-elect. Taryn Grieser is our treasurer. Our secretary is Mandy Graber. Our vice president of development is Scott Russell. Our vice president of communications is Stephen Turchin. Assistant vice president of communications is Kelly Baumgarn. Operations and also the chair of public policy committee is Crystal Pascal. And another operations position, which is our ad hoc committee's chair, that's Angela Miller. And we come from all different sides of the district. So feel free to, if you know us, talk to us. But if you don't know us, feel free to email through our website. We will get your email, and we're happy to talk to you, have coffee or anything if you ever have questions. This is the way to get a hold of us, our website. And we are also on social media. Our Facebook is quite active. That's where we post a lot of information about events and the things that we're doing. So we encourage you to follow us on Facebook. I just wanted to lay out some ground rules before we begin. I just wanted to let everyone know that our meetings are usually recorded. This evening it's recorded because we hope to maybe share this information with the rest of our parent community, those that can't be here tonight, knowing that we have several district conflicts this evening. I'm asking you to just mute yourself unless you're speaking. And we know that parents are busy and it's crazy, so be as present as you can. Zoom is hard, and you've got other things. Don't worry if you have other things going on in the background. We've all been there. And I just wanted to point out as well that we're tackling issues, not people. So concerns involving specific individuals, which are technically HR issues, those should be directed to the administration. And if you don't know who to contact, we're happy to put you in contact with the right person. Just want to say that we approach problems that we see with the assumption that everyone involved is doing the very best they can to help the district. And it's important that we respect each other's opinions and personal experiences. And so with that, I will kick it off and pass the baton to Dr. Taylor to give us an update on what's happening at the administration. Obviously, it's very, as you always say, fluid and busy. So we look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you, Shelley, and thank you, Parent Council Network, for having us this evening. Dr. Woodson sends her regrets as she is in another meeting at this time. So we're kind of dividing and conquering this evening. So I'll just give you some updates relevant to the entire district. We'll start with kind of COVID-19. We'll talk about staffing challenges that we're experiencing, some student challenges that we're experiencing. And then I want to end on a positive note with some of the great work that our communications team did in collaboration with some North Central students, kind of promoting this "we are together, we got this" kind of mantra over at the high school, which was something that was near and dear to my heart. So it felt like it was pertinent to share, as it was shared last week with North Central High School. As far as COVID-19, as you know, we continue to navigate that mitigation work. We report our confirmed cases weekly to the Marion County Public Health Department and collaborate with their team over any potentially concerning data trends that we might be experiencing. Currently, our numbers look good overall. As you can see on our website with the dashboard, what I mean by good overall means that we simply have not had to take any additional mitigational approaches yet this year. In that collaboration with Marion County Public Health Department, as you may recall, last spring, we had to move a few classrooms to virtual once we got going again last spring. This year, we've not had to do that, and hopefully that will stay the course. But that collaboration is critical and ongoing. The good news with COVID-19 is at least it appears the Marion County positivity rate does appear to be on the decline or trending downward again, which we are excited to see and need to continue to see as vaccination rates and vaccination access grows. And we want to continue to push that. So that's just a kind of a brief update on where we are with COVID. We are paying, of all the schools right now, we are paying the closest attention to North Central High School because their numbers the last 2 weeks are a little bit higher than our 2-week averages previously. And so again, nothing to do with regard to our collaboration with Marion County Public Health Department and taking additional practices, but you may see if you're a North Central parent, if your child comes home, we are going to reinforce some of those simple basics as it relates to like how to properly make sure we're wearing our masks and things of that nature. So we've communicated some reminders to staff, to students and parents. We'll get some updates regarding those reminders as well. As far as staffing, that is probably our biggest challenge that we're seeing district-wide right now. Mostly impacted the most is our instructional assistant staff. We have a lot of holes still to fill with our instructional assistants, but we also still need bus drivers, as I'm sure you're aware. We also need child nutrition staff, and we need custodians. And so, you know, if you know of anyone who's out looking for a way to support our schools, there are plenty of opportunities. They just need to go to our district website and to our HR division and check that out. I will also say another challenge that we're experiencing in addition to staffing is our substitute fill rates are extremely low. We're operating around the 20% fill rate, which really challenges our schools. It impacts our schools. So we have a lot of people, thank goodness for the operating referendum and the support of our community, that we were able to bring on additional staff, but those additional staff in some capacities are not doing what they originally intended to do because we have to have some of these immediate needs filled. And so that continues to be a challenge for us. And again, so just a plug, if anyone or you know of anyone who's interested in supporting the district in any of these roles, we just encourage you to have them go to our website and check that out, or reach out to HR or myself or anyone on this call directly, and we're happy to support that effort. So also want to talk about student update. You know, other challenges that we've experienced this year is just reorienting students back to kind of the normal procedures of school, probably more so than ever before. I can say that our students' triggers are either have less patience than we've seen in a lot of cases, very easily triggered, go to 0 to 60 pretty quickly. And so we've seen some challenges with that to start the school year, as I'm sure some of you or all of you have heard. We can attribute it to whatever. We can attribute to the pandemic, obviously, and the inconsistency of schooling due to the fluidity of COVID-19. We also know that a significant amount of our students experienced some trauma over this pandemic experience. And so we're feeling some of that in our schools. And so normally at this time of the year, we would be full steam on board, moving toward that academic needle. But in some cases, we're having to push pause and revisit those school-wide expectations on a more regular basis than ever before. Normally, we would be saying, hey, after fall break, let's come back, revisit those school-wide expectations. Now we're having to do that a little bit more intermittently than we're used to, in reinforcing kind of those 3 Bs that are outlined in our code of conduct, which is, you know, be safe, be respectful, be responsible, as well as just working with those students on some of those coping skills and some of the social emotional skills as well. And so in some cases, we're taking those reteaching moments and reemphasizing things that we spent a lot of time on that, you know, August 4th week when we first returned to school. And that may just be what we have to do to continue to see improvements in some of these areas. We are encouraged by our data the past few weeks when it comes to physical altercations starting to be on the decline again. And so we aim for that to continue to be the trend. And so those are 3 big updates. I did want to finish here with sharing my screen to show a quick video that our students were exposed to at the high school last week. And so I'm going to quickly try to pull that up for you all. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, NC.
Hey, North Central.
What's up, North Central?
North Central, listen. We've had a rough start to the school year. Some things that happened that no one should experience.
Things that have made us afraid and things that have caused us to question a lot. We know one thing.
We know one thing. We know one thing.
We know one thing. We are all Panthers.
We are all Panthers.
We are all Panthers.
We are all Panthers.
We're a family. A student family.
We want to be together. We want to learn together.
We want to stay 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 together.
Virtual learning last year was hard. It was hard being away from our friends.
My grades suffered, and I missed my teachers. I miss being a part of Best Buddies.
I missed having fans at the basketball games. I missed junior spec.
I miss going to speech and debate competitions.
I missed the student section.
I miss the feeling of being at school on game day.
NC, let's come together and do what we can to make sure we stay in school. We can't go back to virtual.
We need to keep NC safe and keep our doors open for everyone. We are all Panthers. Let's take care of ourselves and each other.
So I'll just end on that. Very proud of our students rallying around each other and our student leaders stepping up. And you know, we have plans for that work to continue as they want to grow those practices throughout the building. So just wanted to end with that. I can open it up to any questions right now, or if you want to save for the Q&A later on to move forward, however you want to proceed. Thanks.
If no one has a pressing question right now, we can, revisit things towards the end. We did share that video to our Facebook page. It was really, really well done. So next I did see that Mrs. George Davis was able to join us. So we are going to pivot to the school board liaison update. So I will pass it to you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks again for the invitation. School board has been working on a few things. A little more than half of us were able to attend the Council of Urban Boards of Education meeting in person a couple of weeks ago in Atlanta. And for those who aren't familiar, CUBE is a conference that allows school board members from across the nation to kind of have professional development together and learn about what's going on across the nation. The biggest takeaway that I got from that was number one, we are not alone. There's a lot going on across the world as we bring students back to classrooms. So there's that. And then number two, that a lot of our teachers are dealing with compassion fatigue. I know about this because I work in a hospital and a lot of healthcare providers are going through it right now. So we talk a little bit about how to make sure that we're supporting the students and supporting the administration and supporting the teachers, to make sure that we're keeping everybody safe and that we have a really positive learning environment. Also from that, I guess it was fortuitous that the boards from across northern Indy were all there. So we were in attendance, Lawrence was in attendance, Pike was in attendance. Um, and there was some I say preliminary because it hasn't been scheduled yet. Some preliminary chatting about developing an affinity group for boards kind of in Indy, to have a collaborative discussion about various DEI topics. So just having that equity lens and learning what diversity is really about and when is CRT actually appropriate, that kind of stuff. Again, that was just preliminary chat while we were actually at a social the first evening. So there's that. And then beyond that, we're just making sure that, like I said, we're supporting the administration, trying to keep our schools and our kids safe. Um, and I encourage all parents to continue to communicate with the board. We may not be able to respond to specific things in your emails, but know that the five of us are, in fact, reading the emails and discussing solutions. But of course, we then take those solutions or ideas to the administration and then allow them to do their jobs. So, did anybody have any questions? Okay, I'm going to go on off camera. I have a sick dog, so I don't think you guys want to hear her moaning, and she might actually jump up. So I'm gonna go off camera for the rest of the meeting.
Thank you for your time and thank you for that update. We appreciate it.
Oh, no
Very
worries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So next on our agenda is really what, is the pressing, hot topic right now, is the school safety and security update from our newly installed Chief of Police, Chief Roosevelt Lindsay. And we're excited to just get to know him better, learn about what's going on in his department. Obviously, there's been a lot lately, but we also want to know what to look forward to, how parents can, be partners in this, especially as you embark on this new critical leadership role. So with that, I will pass it over to Chief Lindsay.
Well, thank you, everyone. Hopefully everyone can hear me well. I want to apologize. First of all, this is my first day with this new computer right here. I'm normally have a regular desktop, and now they got me at MacBook Air, so trying to work through that. Well, however, I am Chief Roosevelt Lindsay. I am the newly appointed Chief of Washington Township. I'm very excited. Looking forward to the challenge. I know it takes a community of all to have a successful police department. And one thing that we are very, very fortunate about in our police department is the officers, we're all like-minded. We use a triad approach when we deal with all our children. It's not just being a police. We are counselors, and we're educators, and we're law enforcement officers. And that is not in particular order. We meet the children at their needs. If they need someone just to talk to, we're there for them. If we're there to enforce the law, we will as well. But most of all, we just want to be able to give the students a safe environment, a learning environment that they can be in, and keeping all our school and our staff and properties in a safe manner. One thing I want to touch bases on is to see something, say something. A lot of times, in light of all the incidents in light of some of the incidents we've had at all of our schools, the day after that Monday morning quarterback, people say, well, I knew yesterday. Well, if you let us know yesterday, maybe we could have done something to prevent it. My philosophy is to try to be proactive. When I was working at another school corporation, I was in investigations for 12 years. And investigation was pretty much cut and dry. The crime took place. After the crime, bring subjects in, present the evidence to the prosecutor, and next thing you know, they're before the judge. Had a long talk with myself and was feeling pulled, because I wanted to be in a position where I can be proactive to try to prevent those kind of occurrences. So when Washington Township came along approximately 6 years ago, I jumped at it, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. The relationships. Just on yesterday, I saw a parent and talked to him real briefly, and he looked over at his daughter, and because his daughter said, "Dad, how do you know him?" And he had told her he was my resource officer when I was in high school. And not only was I his resource officer, I was his coach as well. So to be around that long, and now I'm starting to be able to see parents of, see those students as parents, and they have children in high school is very fulfilling. I'm very passionate about what I do. I love what I do, and it takes a special person to be a school police officer. Is a special skill set that everyone doesn't have. I've been a street cop before. Yeah, it is okay. But my heart was tugging at being in a school. And I am so glad I've been in a school for approximately 25 years, being a school resource officer for approximately 25 years. It's going to be some some learning curves on this new position. I ask you all to be patient with me, but I'm moving forward at warp speed. I have a great team, a great support team around me. I know that I'm not an island, and it's going to take the whole community, from each parent to administrator to bus drivers. Everyone that's connected to this township is going to be a collaborative effort, so we can be that flagship school corporation that we've all come accustomed to. Also, I had a slideshow presentation, but like I said, I have just new laptops, so please forgive me. But I want to give a telephone number out. It's in reference to our reporting system, our harassment and discrimination reporting system. And that telephone number is 317-672-0613. That's 317-672-0613. And also there's an email, and the email is 1217@alert1.us. Anyone, they can they can give us any kind of reporting tip. Like I said, if you see something, say something, because it's going to take all of us. It's going to take all of us. And once again, I thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for receiving me tonight.
Thank you very much. Mr. D-Bone, did you have anything?
No. Go ahead.
No,
What was that, the harassment and what? What was that number for? Harassment and what?
Any form of discrimination or regular, just a hotline. It's just a hotline
Okay.
that you can report anything to.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. What exactly specific procedures are you taking so that this doesn't happen in the future? I mean, I understand community needs to be a part of it. Parents need to be a part of it. But I mean, my kids are at school all day. I mean, I understand making the passing period different, but I mean, kids are frustrated. They're frustrated from COVID. They're frustrated from seeing other schools get able to do things that they're not able to do. Construction, all of this stuff is building up. So what are we doing on site to keep them safe?
Okay, ma'am, continue to be vigilant. We have approximately 5 officers and SROs in the school, and we're constantly in a hall. Making those children feel comfortable and being engaged with those students, assisting those students like we always do. In reference to the construction, that's just the nature we have right now. Those areas, they're cordoned off, and they have different routes they have to walk. Some halls are more congested than they normally are, but they're understanding that process now. One thing of when students came back from being online schooling, when they came back, it was different. Sort of like a blessing and a curse as well, because the construction started during that process. So a lot of students that we have in the high school, they were, I say we have almost 3 classes of freshmen. They're coming from the middle school, and those students that were freshmen when the pandemic struck, they are juniors, And so they were just getting into their own and learning the high school. So those 2 years of freshman students coming from the middle school, this is what they know, even though it's not the norm. So I can understand them being frustrated. We get as frustrated as well, but we walk around with a smile on our face and comforting those students and know that, yes, we're all in this together and we will get through this together. Like I previously stated earlier, we have 5, sometimes maybe 6 SROs. We're not building a jail. That's not what we're doing. But we're there being obliging to any and everyone, being very engaged in students. We have our officers going inside of the classrooms, talking to students, going to elementary schools. We have elementary school SROs that they're doing the same thing at the elementary level as well, reading to students and continually to give them that comfort so they can feel secure when they come to school.
Thank you.
You're welcome, man. Anyone else?
I'm sure we have some more, but we'll save those till after we hear from Mr. Doss. He is going to, thank you, Chief Lindsay. It's so great to see you, not in person, but on Zoom. Hopefully, at some point, we'll get back to our in-person meetings. So we appreciate your time and for you being here. And we may have some more questions that pop up as we continue this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next up is Mr. Doss, who we've invited to give us some information about what they're doing for grade level support. And many people maybe don't even know it exists. And so we just wanted to kind of learn more and get an update on that.
Just 1 second, let me share my screen. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be here. My task this evening is to give you a better understanding of the grade level support teams at the high school. And but before I do that, I thought I might kind of let you know why we moved away from our formal model. And formally, and this really hinges upon the role of the counselors. And the counselors were assigned a portion of the alphabet in grades 9 through 12. And so one of the challenges for them is they're each quarter of their stake or of their students have very different needs. And so while in that situation, the seniors, I think, probably received a disproportionate amount of support. Okay, when it's all said and done, our goal is to get the students over the finish line. And so I think that was where the focus was, and we probably didn't do a great job of focusing on the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. So what we've done with this new model is to create grade level support teams where the counselors and the individuals, as you see here in this in the slides here, we're talking about an assistant principal, a dean, 3 counselors, a social worker, but the social worker, we don't have 4 of them in the high school, so they're shared across two particular grade levels, an attendance clerk, and a clerical staff member. And the entire focus of this group is the 900 to 950 students that are part of their particular grade level. And so what does that do? It changes their focus. It allows them to be very intentional, very targeted in their work. This group meets at least every other week, so they have bi-weekly meetings. Oftentimes they're meeting more than that. But one of the critical pieces is to put them in the same geographical location within the building. And while that's not, it may on the surface look like it's something that's not that important, but when you spend time in the same space, especially in a building that's like North Central, that's almost 800 square feet, you develop a relationship and you develop a trust level with the people with whom you share space. And so in that, everything is targeted. So in the past, the counselors kind of did their thing, the administrators kind of did their thing in terms of meeting the needs of the students. This way, it's a very targeted approach, and we monitor things. As you see there, we look at student grades, we look at student attendance, we look at number of credits earned, discipline, and the social emotional well-being of the students. And one piece I think that jumps out at me in those options there is the credit piece. While in the past, the counselors became very targeted, very focused when the students were seniors because we needed to know whether or not we're going to get them over the finish line. Now we look at it very differently. We literally, every single semester, we start targeting students that aren't accruing the number of credits they need to put themselves on a track to graduate. And so that's a critical piece. So we're having those conversations already. Unfortunately, not every student has stepped up and has done the things necessary to put him or herself in a position to pass all the courses. So that's a very big part of that work. We also take a very targeted approach to interventions. And those interventions could be academic support, could be like kind of being the conduit and letting students know how they can get additional support beyond the classroom. Can also be getting them involved in a credit recovery course if it's a junior or maybe a sophomore who failed some of the courses prior. Then what kinds of things can you double up on? Take some online courses while you're taking your general course load more central. Make sure you're not taking too many study halls so that you can again accrue credits as you need to. And the key piece is that we can remain focused on the entire group of kids that we have and the unique needs that accompany them. We all know that transition from middle school is a big one. And those of you who already have students at the high school, or you've had students who've matriculated beyond North Central, know that that's a difficult challenge. It's a difficult challenge from elementary to middle and middle to high. And so now that group of the grade level support team that works with the freshmen can focus only on freshmen. You don't have to worry about getting those seniors over the line. You don't have to worry about the SAT for those juniors. Everything is focused on making the students successful with their particular grade level. And again, and what we've done in that when we actually get North Central built out, the full renovation of the tied to the 2016 and the 2020 construction referendums, they will have dedicated spaces throughout the building. Right now, the administration kind of together, the deans and APs have some satellite places, but prior to this time, I should say, the counselors were all in one block of the building. Well, if you're familiar with the building now, although many of you can't spend as much time in there because of the restrictions of COVID, but in that situation, we now have these folks together. We're opening up an additional space over fall break. And so again, we can put the group that I identified here together so they can collaborate on a much higher level. But ultimately, they know what's going on. If a student's struggling with some behaviors, the counselor and the administration can work together. There are also other people that are part of that plan. If you look at that very last bullet, the targeted approach to interventions through the graduation coach and the student support specialist. Now, these individuals aren't tied to one particular grade level support team, but they're tied to targeted to specific students who may be struggling for one reason or another. At the same time, we also know that the other end of the spectrum, the kids who by and large don't need a lot of additional supports, but at the same time might need supports with applying to colleges and knowing what that process looks like. Those are also things that the grade level support teams can work on and target. You know, we have Miss Salazar, who's basically the college counselor who works with students, but they can pull her in prior to the senior year and work with students and families that need some support and guidance and learning how to matriculate that piece if you're first time college. If you have a student who's going to be in college for the first time. So it's a very targeted, very specific approach. And in terms of tonight's focus with the focus on safety, the beautiful part is that oftentimes students have a different adult in the building that they feel comfortable sharing with. And so by having these teams together, if a counselor's made aware of a situation, they can immediately walk across the hallway and make the dean and the assistant principal aware if it's something that students experiencing something that needs to be addressed, through the administration. But they also can work closely with the social workers and counselors and outside agencies with regards to some mental health pieces. Excuse me. But no, it's a very, very, very targeted, very, very specific in their role. And I think that we've already seen some changes in terms of being able to better serve students. The timing was ideal. I don't think when we made this decision, we did not envision that we were going to all be living through the pandemic. And I will tell you, the challenging piece last year, they spent an inordinate amount of time trying to get kids engaged who were virtual and whatnot, and unfortunately didn't get to spend as much time targeting the things that would get ruled out or identified when we put this group together. But at the same time, I'm not sure what we would have done if we didn't have this group to do that last year in terms of getting kids connected. So with that, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you might have, or you can just roll them into the Q&A session, whatever works for you.
Thank you, Mr. Doss. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to unmute and ask it, or you could just type it in the chat and we will see it there. We also have some questions that came in to our online form that we had put out a few weeks ago, and we kept sharing it to let people know it was there. So our board member, Crystal Pascal, I think, has some of those. Is that right, Crystal?
Crystal stepped away, Shelley.
Oh, she did. Okay, sorry. All right. Well, does anybody else have that list? I have it. I don't have it up right now, but I can pull it here.
I'm back. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
Toddler bathroom emergency.
Of course. What are you doing on Wednesdays at 7:43? You're being
Yep. The parenting never stops. Okay. So as Shelley mentioned, I'm gonna kick off with one of the questions that was submitted through our form that we've had up on our social media. For this first one, first of all, the person asking the question starts out just expressing appreciation for everybody on the staff and all that they do. They have concern around proper procedures being followed during incidents. They're speaking specifically to the recent incident of student violence a few weeks ago, and what they would like to know is what's being done to change procedures to keep everyone safe, and our procedures around how things are carried out when these student incidents occur. Are they taught to staff and students? And then their final question was, how can parents support the district when it comes to safety?
Okay, I guess I'm sorry.
Chief, why don't you talk to some of the pieces that Mr. Brannigan sent out in his communications regarding some of the changes? And then I can talk a little bit about the emergency preparedness plans and the follow-up regarding the incident from from September 8th. Chief, are you, Chief Lynn?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry about that. Yes, I can. I can speak on that subject matter. Yes, we did have an incident that occurred early part of September. It was very, it was a tough situation. However, since that day, we have brought several other SROs from different buildings into the school to give extra support to the school as well. We reorganized some of those SROs. They've been there continuing on a daily basis. We've also had middle school officers who know some of those, a lot of those students from the middle school, so they can feel comfortable because they had been with those middle school SROs, had been with those students for approximately 3 years. So when they got to the high school, for them to see a familiar face in a crisis, they helped out a lot. We will continue to give support. We're all, our SROs, we are all SEL certified and have some kind of training in social emotional learning. And also we have a wealth of resources. We partner with Cummings, that offers services to our school. And SROs, we also have started a mentorship program, Gens for Success. We started that during the pandemic to show another side, another face of policing. So we have done a lot of things, put a lot of things in place, and to make these children feel safe and comfortable while they're at school. Like I said, that incident that occurred on September 8th, it couldn't have been prevented. It was appointed incident directed at one particular person. The officers at the high school, when they first get to the high school, we greet all the students in. Once the kids get in school, we secure all doors. However, the incident occurred before the school day started, when all the doors were open. Actually, we had several SROs in the next hall, And fortunately, we had 2 administrators that just so happened to be transitioning from one location to another and was right present when the incident occurred. So immediate care was given. And you know, when there's an incident, we really jump on it and we act. All of our officers, we are, well, without the last 2 that will be going to the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy, we're all, you know, first responders. We're first responders, and we're educated and we're equipped to handle whether it's an incident of that magnitude, tornado drill, fire drill. We are first responders, and we will respond accordingly. And that's what we did on that particular morning.
Thank you, Chief. I'll also add to that, you know, Mr. Brannigan has sent out some communication related to some technical shifts and changes that they were going to be implementing at North Central. And we're under, you know, looking at those implementation practices that consisted of just some technical pieces like tightening up on hallway transitions, from moving from an 8-minute transition, what we used to have a staggered transition to now 6 minutes, as well as looking at ways that we can be proactive with metal detection pieces, much like you would experience attending a Colts game, or if you've attended a recent North Central football game, but more done so at random. Random not by person, but random by section of entrance to the building. So for example, you may do some wanding of students coming from certain buses, a handful of buses one morning, as well as, you know, the next time doing it with students who are coming in the carpool, as well as the next time with student drivers. So it is a random approach to just detecting any potential issues that students may have. We wanted to strike a delicate balance with regard to, you know, not putting a metal detector at every single entrance of the school, because we don't necessarily believe that that's best, but we also know that we can take some more proactive approaches as well to prevent or to sway students from trying to bring potentially dangerous contraband, if you will, into school. And so, you know, we don't have the logistics necessarily worked out of that yet, but is under works currently. Specific to the incident and post triaging, anytime you go through a crisis event like that, it causes you to reflect on your emergency preparedness plan and your procedures. And so we had a meeting last week where we reviewed our procedures, what actually occurred versus what we have in our preparedness plans, and where were we tight and what could we do better differently. I'm really proud of our comprehensive counseling support and immediate counseling support work that was done in this instance, but there's always things we can do better and more intentional. And so we had those conversations. We had conversations reviewing our communications in light of that event. And it was hard. It was difficult because, you know, when you relive that event with staff who experienced it, that reopens some wounds, but we also know it's integral to learning about our systems and our plans and figuring out what we can do better next time if in the event we have to experience something similar again. And so that just, hopefully that answers some of those questions in relationship. I think the last part of that was parent oriented. How can parents support that? And I just think, again, making use of our see something, say something alert processes is going to be critical. Know what your students are doing on social media, what your children are engaged in on social media. Monitor that, have conversations, keep the communication flow going with your teenager, because oftentimes they'll reveal to you in some way or some form or fashion potentially concerning situations that administration, teachers, or any of the educators or SROs in the building can help be proactive with. And Mr. Doss, Mr. Debone, I don't know if you want to share anything that I may have missed as well.
I think you hit most of those, Dr. Taylor. The only thing I might emphasize is that that one of our challenges is also student phones and social media. You know, one of the difficult pieces, we would always like to be able to communicate with parents almost as soon as we know what's happening, and in that and be the first narrative that you hear. But in this situation as well, we had students who immediately during the traumatic situation pulled out their phones, and immediately within a half an hour were sending posts that literally we now know made their way across the country because of Instagram and a variety of social media pieces. And so that is a difficult piece. I would again, we have things that we need to continue to get better at, but I would like to see if you could have those conversations with your kids. Guys, in those situations, that's not a good time to get out your camera. It's not a good situation. It doesn't serve anyone well, and it gets you a lot of likes and shares, but that's not what we're about. As you heard the kids say, we're a community, and we all pull together, and that works against it. And it also made the administration's work challenging because we were then trying to deal with rumors based on the things that were published in social media, as opposed to really looking at for the needs of our kids.
Thank you. The next question that we had submitted on our list was, how often will K-9 officers be deployed at North Central, and why is this necessary?
Well, ma'am, to say that K-9 will be deployed at the school, it would go back to the randomness. Things are done randomly. We've always, since I've been in Washington Township, we will have the dogs that come in. Sometimes kids weren't even aware, where we would check the grounds for any kind of contraband in school, because we do have an open campus. There are several events that go on the weekend from outside agencies as well. So we're constantly on those grounds. Maybe somebody left something on the ground. So whatever we do with the dogs, K-9 or any other special security procedures we put in place, it's only for the safety of those students. It's not to single anyone out or make someone feel uncomfortable. It's just for the whole community, the totality of keeping our whole school safe.
And Chief Lindsay, if you could also just address what the kind of random checks, kind of like what we had at the football game the other night, look like, because I saw a question pop up in the chat along those lines.
Yes, just like Dr. Taylor said earlier, it's no more than you would if you were going to a Colts game. We have signage out letting you know what to bring. There's also been emails that were sent out, and those announcements are made out at the school on what you can bring. If you have a purse, it has to be, of certain size or whatnot. No big banners, but we're going back to the metal section. It's just a wand, just like you would go to any Colts football game. Everyone that comes through, they're get wanded. Even if there's a small child, they're getting wanded. So we're not singling anyone out. And this is just a simple, quick process. It may be uncomfortable or even an inconvenience for someone, but to keep everyone safe, I feel that that's something that needs to be done. Hope that answers your question. Not, I can continue on.
Yes, thank you. And you guys have, there's been another question about the randomness of searches, and I know that you guys have spoken to this, but I did want to read this question again, just because I think it gets to the heart to some of the concern is just what efforts are being made to ensure that random searches of students are non-biased in terms of race, gender, and appearance. And you've mentioned some of that already, but if you have anything to add to that.
Yes, the randomness, like previously said, depends on the bus, we could just pick a bus number, no particular bus number. We can put all the numbers in the hat, the last number of any bus, and we pull that number out, and whatever bus number comes out, that's the one we're going to check. Car riders, everyone that comes in that's a car rider, we may check every fourth person, but some of those particulars we're still trying to work out, but it will be done in all fairness. We're looking at all sides, and we're keeping we're inclusive in our discussion, and going to be unbiased towards. We're not going to be biased towards anyone. It's just what the word says, random, and not pointed to any particular type of person.
Excellent, thank you. Our next question is, it touches on a different area of school safety than we've talked about, but also an important one. What is the procedure when a student files a complaint of harassment about a teacher or other staff member in the district?
I can take that. The procedure for when a student files a complaint about a teacher, is that correct? Did I hear that correctly?
That's correct. Yes, that if they have been made to feel unsafe by a teacher or staff member.
Yeah, so anytime there's a report of that nature, there is a process that we follow according to our policies related to our, involving HR in that matter. And depending on the severity of the allegation, obviously that requires an investigation. That could also require, depending on, again, the specifics of the allegation and the investigation, it can require, as we're mandatory reporters, a call to the Department of Child Protective Services, as well as even the potential of filing a report to IMPD. And with that, as a situation unfolds with HR, we obviously get our guidance as well from legal, from our legal team, to make sure we're doing everything that we can in that instance to be fair to the process. And so that is, by virtue, our process with the report. It tends to, depending on who receives the report, it goes to first building administration of that particular building, if that's where it, if that's where it happens, and then it goes from building administration to HR, and from there, it could go to, mandatory reporting to DCS. It could go to IMPD, and then we follow our processes outlined through HR policy in relation to that piece, involving parents, obviously, in that situation as well.
Thank you. Just a couple more questions from our list that were pre-submitted. The next one that I have is, how many full-time social workers are assigned to each school?
So our social workers, we have one social worker assigned at all of our schools, with the exception of our high school. Our high school has multiple social workers. We do have a social worker who serves as our coordinator of student programs and family liaison, who has a social worker background, who also supports our social worker development in our schools.
Thank you. And final question from our pre-submitted list was, and we've talked a bit about metal detectors tonight, but I think this person is specifically wondering if we see having permanent metal detectors at our entrances now or in the future.
I'll be glad to field that question, as I've answered a number of emails related to this. And basically, one of the bigger issues, aside from the fact that it's taking a huge step, but is the logistics. If, for example, if we, with 3,750 students, our goal was to get those students in a 15-minute window, which is kind of where we are now with arrival. If all things were perfect and students were able to go through that metal detector in 15 seconds, and we would have to have 63 metal detectors. We would have to, and typically, if you think about what that looks like at a sports event, there are usually 2 individuals at least manning that situation because of all the belongings that you have to work through. So that would be 126 adults, and that would be if everything were perfect to get that done. And it's just not feasible. We don't have the people power to make that happen, and then to supervise the students as they arrive. And so that's one big hurdle for sure. While it sounds nice and good in theory, I just don't ever, there's not a large high school like ours anywhere in the country that I'm aware of that makes that piece happen.
And I'm happy to address the question in the chat on door schedules. The doors are scheduled to lock automatically on after arrival has taken place and as classes start. Now that varies building to building based on their schedules, and even depending on if we shift to a 2-hour delay or different schedules throughout the school year. But it's still a small number of doors that are automatically controlled, and Chief Lindsay can speak to that, where there's still a manual process too. In this instance, those were automatic doors that were just about to lock. That just happened right at the beginning of the school day. But there's still then a manual process where the SROs go around and lock the doors by key and bar those. They were barred down for arrival. They undo that so that they will lock. But as for adjustments, we are tightening up some of those schedules, especially at the North Central site for passage between buildings, because you have JEL students and North Central students that come back and forth for lunch periods. That is being tightened up. And Chief, if you want to speak to some of the extra precautions for that specifically.
Yes, sir. And we've also, we have our officers assigned in certain sectors. So they are assigned to that area, and that's their main objective is to make sure those doors aren't propped open, left open, other students come and let other students in as well. We've had that problem where kids, they may come to school late and they'll call one of their friends, hey, come open up the door for me. We have 33 doors at that school. We have on average maybe 4 or 5 officers in that building at the same time. It's impossible for us to man every door, but we're constantly walking, patrolling, making sure those doors are locked and secured. To piggyback what Mr. Kneebone said, yes, we do have several doors that are timed to lock on their own, but the majority of our doors, they have to be manually keyed up so they won't be able to be used from outside coming in. So with the new referendum, I know there are going to be new locking mechanisms put on. I'm not sure exactly what that will be, but we will continue to monitor those doors, making sure that doors aren't propped open, and continue monitoring the halls.
There's also a question in the chat, I believe, related to concerns about metal detection and random searches, and what are we going to do for training. I will tell you that our school police officers engaged in professional development and continue to engage with our social emotional learning coaches. Our school police officers have engaged in mentoring work specifically at North Central High School as well. So I believe Chief Lindsay has done an adequate job of communicating that a lot of proactive work is relationship work, and it is that human piece that is absolutely critical and absolutely essential. We just also believe that there can also be a healthy, balanced approach as well. And so that is going to be our approach moving forward at North Central.
Do we have any more questions? I have one. I don't know if I'd like to hear from each of you, or just specifically Chief Lindsay and maybe Dr. Taylor. What is your wish for parents to do, or how can parents be partners or helpers with this? I mean, we already talked about monitoring your kids' social media, and I know that, but is there something that you want us to do, share with others? What is your biggest wish?
My biggest wish would be when we can start having these in-person meetings, parents coming out for the PTO and volunteering. Parents coming to volunteer, come to the football games, coming to the sporting events to help us monitor and be that extra set of eyes that can assist us. That would be my wish.
Yeah, Shelley, great question. Chief, I do appreciate that answer a lot. I do think we're still really desiring, and our students are communicating that desire for connection. And so I think our biggest as I communicated early in the update, one of our biggest challenges is staffing. So if you're a parent out there and you're looking for opportunities, give it thought. We would love to have volunteers in the buildings helping out schools. We obviously know with COVID and all of that, that's going to be complicated. As those things loosen up, certainly consider talking to engaging with your children's teachers, engaging with your children's administration, serving on parent council, serving in any capacity that you can to just build relationships with those who are in charge of educating your children. And so that communication, that two-way communication is there, that trust, that connection is all there. But it does start with just opening that communication line, or ensuring that communication line stays open with your kid. And if you're seeing things or you suspect certain things, reach out to those educators who can support or proactively any potential type of suspicion that could lead to a potentially dangerous situation like we unfortunately experienced a few weeks ago.
I might add too that just engage in conversation with your kids. I think that too often we get busy as families, but once your students land in middle school and high school, I know they also sometimes push back and forget that you're their parent. But if you can have dinner together, I mean, that's pretty old school, but have those conversations, because the best way we can be proactive is for you to share those things. Sometimes students are not always comfortable getting out in front of that. Our society sometimes doesn't value that piece, but you as parents, I think, can filter through that piece and let us know. We talked earlier about the hotline that you can reach out to, but reach out to counselors, administrators, reach out to central office administration. Let us know when you hear things. Again, even if it's not legit, if you've had that conversation with your kids and they've led you to believe that that something that might be up, please let us know that piece.
And the kids are they're taught that at school as well. That message, they hear that message at school. I assume, I mean, my understanding is that they've gotten that through some of the anti-bullying stuff and just code of conduct sort of stuff. And I also just want to say that, this has been a really good conversation, but we can't have a safety and security conversation without also extending that conversation to focus on some of the mental health aspects to this. We've focused a lot in the past here on online safety and cybersecurity, but and how parents keep their kids safe online and all of that. But we really need to also focus on that mental health component. And so it is our wish, our desire as a parent council to explore that as a topic for a meeting, hopefully in November. And so we just want to always point that out, that we are not ignoring that. It's not an elephant in the room thing. We're not ignoring that mental health component, but we really think it needs to be highlighted. And so we're working to get together a robust panel to talk about that at some point. Hopefully we're shooting for November. So and if there are no other questions, which I'm not seeing any at this moment, now I'd just like to pivot to mention our next month's meeting is in October, and that is on, let me look, I don't have the date right in front of me.
October 20th.
Thank you. I knew it was like, I couldn't remember. Yes, October 20th, and we are having our intent is to have our annual legislative forum where we invite basically any legislator whose district or boundaries touch Washington Township. They are invited to come to a forum where we talk about issues that are, important to Washington Township in terms of education and policies that they're seeing and dealing with at the State House. So I am going to pass it over to Crystal to let her tell us a little bit about that, and then and also maybe talk a little bit about public policy.
Sure. Before I do that, we did have one more question come through about bias training for staff. Unfortunately, one person we don't have on our call tonight is Dr. Erica Buchanan Rivera, who is our Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. who really is kind of our go-to and guide and spearheads a lot of that. But Dr. Taylor, could you briefly, or Mr. Doss, just briefly address some of the equity and bias training that our staff and teachers receive, and then I'll do my piece.
I'll start off, and Dr. Taylor, you can close things here. I can say actually the implicit bias training started in our district about 5 years ago. While this journey has ratcheted up over the last couple of years, especially the last year plus since we've hired Dr. EBR. But that work began quite a while ago, and it was not only done, it was done at the district level, but then there was a team that then would go back to the schools themselves and work through that implicit bias training. So I think while we're not in a perfect space, and obviously we've hired a number of people, it is something that we offer each year. In fact, our social emotional learning coaches offer the professional development in the summer. We oftentimes collaborate with outside agencies. For example, Peace Learning Center is a group that we've partnered with the last few years, but that's very much on our radar. And I think while it's a foundational level piece, it's important that everyone understand that piece.
Yeah, I'll just add that self-work is very much one of the key factors of our professional development as it relates to cultural responsiveness. I can speak specifically to a training we just had at our last early release that was all about critical consciousness and being aware of our biases within our own selves and doing that mirror work. So it continues to very much be a thread into all of our professional development endeavors as we continue to work on raising achievement, improving the health of all of our students, particularly our students of color.
Thank you so much. And I would just encourage folks, if they have additional questions related to diversity, equity, inclusion, to reach out to Dr. Buchanan Rivera directly. She's very responsive and she's happy to have those conversations with parents, and her information is on the district website. But she's a really great resource as to not only what we're doing as a district, but the thought process behind why we are doing those things. But thank you to Mr. Doss and Mr. Taylor for your thoughtful responses there. All right, I'm going to pivot a little bit. My name is Crystal. I am a Northview and Nora mom, and I am our public policy chair for this school year. One of my favorite things that Parent Council does is coming up next month, and that's our legislative forum. And that's where we get to have hear from our local legislators, folks that are making decisions about our state and our area, our districts. They come together this year virtually. And they answer our questions specifically related to public education, things like funding and, laws about schools. These are all things that they are making decisions on, and it's important that they hear from us. I always tell people that, they are accountable to us. They are our elected officials. We pay their salaries with our tax dollars. And so this is a really great chance to establish that contact, hold them accountable, and hear from them. Some of you, all of you, I'm sure in the past week or so got everybody's favorite email of the year, the school book fee email, which is always a nice kind of kick in the stomach. But what you might not be aware of is Indiana is one of the only states in the country where those fees are passed on to parents. And that is because of state laws and state legislatures. So if that's something that you want to see change, I encourage you to come to our legislative forum and talk to these folks and get your questions answered. And a couple weeks after that legislative forum, we are going to be holding a postcard writing event, possibly virtually, possibly in person. We'll see what safety looks like in regards to COVID then. But that's just a chance to put in writing some of the concerns that you walked away from the forum with and send those out to your legislators and to the governor as well. So we have a couple of our lawmakers confirmed to be there. We're excited to have a few more. And we look forward to seeing you in October.
Thank you, Crystal. All right. Well, I think that does it for this evening. We hope to see you all back here. Well, we don't know. Again, COVID, we're not sure, but I think we're anticipating a Zoom for the legislative forum. Is that right, Crystal, at this point?
Yes, I think we decided better safe than sorry and just
Yeah.
preemptively decided to go ahead with Zoom for that one, just
Okay.
to play it safe so we don't have to switch things at the last minute.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so that will be October 20th, 7 o'clock, and we will have our links and everything posted to our Facebook page on our website. And with that, I think I will close out. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add, or am I forgetting anything? No? All right. Thanks everyone for being here. Have a great night.